Hello everyone. This is the 31st and the last part of the story Game of Thrones, the Prideful one. Chapter 151, The End of A Song of Ice and Fire Part 1. Two massive explosions of green light had descended from the sky into the enemy forces a few hours ago. Almost like the gods themselves had smitten the unholy creature coming our way, but I knew better than to believe that. The gods were a bunch of assholes. However, the fact remained that whatever it was, it hit the enemy lines hard enough for everyone to hear from this distance, meaning Ronard had done something. The door behind opened. Ronar, I started to see it was Oberyn who was coming. Well, twice in a day. Oberyn chuckled, not quite. Oberyn, I sighed. Oberyn chuckled as he gave a curt nod. The very same, unique and irreplaceable, Oberyn Martell. Is there anything you need? I asked. Not really, trying to keep my mind occupied with the fact we might all die, Oberyn sighed. We will die fighting if that's our destiny, I stated. That's the plan, Oberyn chuckled, though, I like to believe Ronard will win, with his crazy luck. That's what we are all believing. I smiled. Where's Ronard, by the way? Oberyn asked me. I don't know, I answered. I do. Ned Stark stated as he entered the room. The king gave his orders. We are to move now. Move now? What had changed? Any change of plans? I asked Ned Stark. No, he just modified our waiting time. Ned Stark answered with a grim look. He said, it's all or nothing now, and that you have to leave. I won't leave him alone. I half shouted. Ronard Mormont point of view. I see you've had your fun with my newest weapon, I stated plainly as I flew above him, with Neltharion holding one of the last two bombs on his claws, ready to drop it. While Regal held the last one high above us, flying above the enemy lines. Wanted to take in the sights. Enjoy the walk, before destroying all life. The undead lich replied with a growl and then gestured to me. But you seem to have forgotten about how hopeless you were last time we fought. Did you forget the result? The undead smirked. It's hard to forget. I shrugged, first time I have ever lost, so, that memory will haunt me for a long time. As I talked with him, my attention shifted to his army and how much the explosions had hurt his manpower. Then, you should know you can't defeat me. The Night King proudly stated. My attention shifted from his army back to him as I chuckled bitterly. Things have changed. The undead king looked at me, with clear amusement on his face. Oh? How so? I smiled as I pointed Dawn at him. The opportunity for you to be able to defeat me has come and gone. You're no longer capable. I told him. Is that so? The undead king asked, almost hissing in anger. You had your chance to kill me, and you did, but you should have gone for the head, I smiled, devoid of all emotion. You think a month is enough to bypass the wall between you and me? The undead king scoffed, arrogant little brat. I eyed him for a second before I started to chuckle. I did not think of you for a winner, quite the letdown, I sighed. I surpassed you, because you killed me. I no longer have any stops, any shackles. You will fail, like it has been written. Don't blame me for it, blame the gods for fucking us up. The Night King chuckled at that. Have you seen my army? It is the greatest army known to men. I can't be stopped. Well, if you say so. I sighed, deciding it was best to show him later. I was not going to commit the same mistake I did last time, no. I just came here to deliver a package, and as to why I had come personally, well, to select the most problematic targets. You think I'm going to let you go? The Night King growled, moving towards me. No, but, I smiled, as I whistled the signal to let Regal know it was time to drop the tactical medieval nuke on them. I bet that buys me more than enough time to get out. I winked at the undead king. The Night King looked at me, as his general covered him from the explosion, anger in his eyes. To think I once thought he was an emotionless monster. When in reality, he was just a normal monster. I will kill you, the undead growled, as the fire engulfed thousands of his minions and me, but unlike the White Walkers for us, this was like a day on the beach, barely an inconvenience, the perks of being fireproof. As Neltharion flew out of the fire, I pointed to our target, the fairy tale creature section, where giants, winter spiders, and other unknown creatures were, it was the best point to target, almost too good. I wonder why you would do such a thing. This just made my selection process easier. There, I commanded. On it. Neltharion nodded, dropping the bomb on the location I had asked, and soon enough, another explosion engulfed the area in a green fire. Let's go, we have an army to lead. I ordered, for I had completed my mission here. 1. I had enraged the Night King, and 2. I had taken the majority of his giants during this. Why did I want to enrage him? Well, rage is a human emotion that brings the greatest minds in the world to a retarded level. Fighting an angry enemy is easier than to fight a calm and collected one. 1 hour later. Daenerys was not happy with my suicidal idea, nor were any of my generals. Even Oberyn was questioning my sanity, but who the fucks cares right now? How could you do? I stopped her with a long passionate kiss. You will have time to kill me later. For now, I need you to go with Melisandre. She will protect you. I smiled. I won't leave you alone. Daenerys said, stepping her foot down. I'm not alone, besides. You and Melisandre have a role to play. No, they didn't. I had convinced Melisandre to lie to Daenerys if things went south for me. That way, Daenerys would comply, thinking she was helping me. We will use the royal blood to smite the enemies of our king, Melisandre stated, and that part was true. I had given her a lot of my blood, for in her own words, my blood had powers beyond comprehension. Though this power had downsides, for examples, every time she used my blood for something, I would lose some of my lifespan. But considering my lifespan was greater than any human around, it was a good exchange. Even if it meant only living a month after the war, I would be happy to leave my family safe. Besides, with my blood, she would be able to create shadow soldiers, set my enemies on fire from a distance, and bless my army with power. A good trade if you ask me. Why do I have to be with her if she already has that? Daenerys inquired. You need to give her permission every time she uses it. That was a lie, made to keep her out of the danger. You are his soulmate, only you can allow me to use his royal blood to do my magic. Melisandre lied. Thank God she was with me on this one. How long do we have? Ned asked me. A day. The Night King won't take this dance slowly anymore, I answered. Well, if I am to die, then. Oberyn said, kissing a random guard. There, better, I will go down like the horny snake I am. I don't care, Ned sighed, rolling his eyes at him. Huh. Ned is really growing, neat. The final battle was near, life and death. Jon, I turned to my friend/nephew. Yes, my suicidal king. Jon smiled, getting a glare from Dany. Very funny. I chuckled as I tossed Longclaw to him. I already have 2 blades, use that one. I can't, this is the ancestral sword of House Mormont. Jon stammered, holding the sword like it was some kind of baby, fragile and unique. I already have Dawn and Lightbringer, wield Longclaw for me, I chuckled. Give it back after the battle, that's an order. As you wish, my king, Jon nodded with a smile. By the way, why are you so cool with me having Dawn? Oberyn? I asked my snake-like friend. If that overglorified blade gives you an edge to win. I don't care, heck, if you need my brother's wheelchair to win, I will myself kick him out of it, and give it to you. Oberyn laughed. You really think at this point anyone cares about who owns what blade? Fuck that. I want to live to fuck another day. Well, that was a very Oberyn-like response. Chapter 152, The End of A Song of Ice and Fire Part 2. With our plan at hand, we marched towards the enemy horde. Neltharion, Crow and Regal would focus on the undead dragon, while we took care of the horde coming our way. Animals and humans alike would fight together. It took us 8 hours to get where I wanted the fight to break free, giving us around 6 hours to rest and wait. Waiting was a torture on its own, but it was one that we couldn't escape, and before we knew it, all the time we had left vanished in the cold winter winds of the north, meaning he was here. Took you long enough, I smiled as I saw the knight approaching, his horde of soldiers right behind, ready to attack at his unholy command. It's time to end this, once and for all, the Night King stated, hefting his spear up. I suppose we shall see. I rolled my eyes at him as I hoisted up Dawn and Lightbringer. You that look down upon humanity, should see that you show very human-like traits. Pathetic. In the end, my last challenge is a child throwing a tantrum. Taking a deep breath, I allowed the blue flames of my soul, covered both of my blades. Your numbers mean nothing to me. You'll learn the hard way. Perhaps you are right. I was human at one point, but I will not lose against you, child. For I am beyond anything you have ever faced, the Night King stated, as his body started to transform into an even more disfigured appearance, losing any resemblance to a human being. His eyes ignited in power. Beside him, Oak ignited his magic. Fire! The Night King called out to his dragon as he finished his transformation. My eyes drifted off of him to see the massive dragon open its mouth as it looked towards my army. Black flames erupted from its maw, threatening to kill my army, but Crow, Regal and Neltharion stopped the wild torrent of fire with their own, 3 against 1, resulting in a stalemate. My army took this as the call for battle, and rallied themselves towards the enemy, clashing with the Horde, Dothrakis, Unsullied, and Westerosi all fighting together against the undead Horde. Impressive, it seems. My dragon will have some fun. The Night King stated with a wicked smile, not really caring for the battle. Deal with the dragons. He ordered his dragon, before turning his attention back to me. Now, let's see who has the superior army, you or me? Our champion has. That voice. Melisandre, the hell is she doing here? Daenerys saw through your scheme, and decided to stay behind for now, and ordered me to come and help, Melisandre stated, as she slowly walked towards me. I hid between your soldiers, waiting for the battle to break free. Don't worry, your wife is safe. I made more than enough shadows to ensure I was able to stand by you during all this. I eyed her, and my generals, Jon, Ned, Oberyn, and with a sigh I said, grab your dance partners. I ordered them. Generals versus generals. King versus king, truly poetic. The Night King laughed, as his general and him started to walk towards us. Melisandre was facing Oak, the children of the forest, while Jon was facing the young Griff. Ned and Oberyn were both facing an undead taller than Gregor Clegane himself. My sons were facing the undead dragon, and as for me, well, I was facing the unholy king. In the blink of an eye, the Night King rushed towards me, clashing his ice spear with my swords. As I blocked his attack, the Night King tried to push me back, but I didn't budge. The undead king looked at the battle pairings and smirked. Looks like your generals will need help soon. He stated. My dragon will take care of your so-called sons, and then how are you going to stop it from laying waste to your army? The undead inquired with a smug smile. You overestimated yourself. You are still the same idiot I killed last time. Am I? I questioned back, blocking his attacks with relative ease. As I continued to keep the undead king occupied, my attention drifted to my army. Seeing them facing the Horde like warriors, I knew most of them were scared, but it didn't stop them from fighting. My sons were also fighting valiantly, against the massive, clashing against it. Not to interrupt, but we will kick your ass. Oberyn shouted playfully as he and Ned struggled against the undead general. What he said. I chuckled. Truly. Pathetic, the Night King growled, attacking me once more, only to fail as I jumped backwards. Well, prepare to lose against this pathetic army. I have, I said, readying my blades once again. The Night King ignored my comment altogether, rushing to attack me, showing more speed and strength he had during our last encounter. The more power he poured into his attacks, the more monstrous his appearance would change. He already did not look like a human, and now he looked more like a mutated demon, about to burst like a water balloon, and yet even with his grotesque appearance he was fighting like a cat, agile and lethal with each strike. You can't beat me, the Night King said, slamming his deformed fist into my stomach, sending me a few hundred yards again from him. You're strong, I have to admit that, but I paused as I activated the glyph of the left hand of God. Before appearing before him, I saw his eyes widen in horror as I pierced through his chest with Dawn, followed by a roundhouse kick to his head, slamming him into the ground, creating a small crater underneath it. I'm stronger. Gotta love the super soldier serum plus the runes of the left hand of God, a lethal and explosive combination. For a moment I thought everything was over. I had after all pierced his chest with a flaming sword. And yet, all he had was a wound that was slowly healing into nothingness. I can't die by Valyrian steel or in this case, star essence. The Night King laughed. I'm impressed you show so much power now. It's like I'm fighting a different person altogether, but even if you are stronger than me, I will win, for all I have to do is wait for you to tire yourself out, and when you do, I'll kill you. Fucking awesome, the asshole is not allergic to Valyrian steel like his minions. Well, at least I can now fight him without having to worry about him and his army sharing eyesight, thanks to my army of course, but that blessing was momentary. I had to win this before his numbers, well, overwhelmed my men. Well, I'll figure something out. I winked at him, activating my runes once again. Maybe I had to cut him more than once, maybe I had to treat him like a human. Good luck with that, for now. The undead smiled, stopping mid-sentence, snapping his fingers, which was immediately followed by a horde coming my way. Let's tire you out. You bitch, I glared at him. If he thought a bunch of idiots were enough to stop me, well, he had another thing coming his way. Taking a deep breath, I lighted his poor attempt to tire me out in a sea of fire, killing all of the soldiers coming my way. You will need to try harder than that, I said as we clash our weapons once again. Ignorant fool. You're going to die by my hands. The Night King said in a promising tone. Kicking the bastard a few meters away, I responded. Prepare to be disappointed. Our battle continued. The more the monster I was fighting mutated, the more difficult it was to fight him. I looked down at my hand. His cold was slowly getting to me, burning my skin with my hands for example. They were severely burned thanks to the cold he was emanating. True to his word, he was tiring me out. I didn't know how long I was going to be able to keep the upper hand. The more the fight went on, the more difficult it became to cut him, and in the end, it didn't even matter, for any wounds I managed to deliver would soon heal. My clothes were burned off as I had several wounds around my body with frostbite. He was overwhelming my fire. I needed to find a way to end this. Something in my journey had to help me, but what? What can I do to save them all? I began to ask myself as I heard my people scream in pain and agony. A plan came to mind, and I felt my body shake as I made my decision. Perhaps it was time to think like a villain. Well, Vegeta is more of an anti-hero, but I will steal his thunder. I know what to do. Taking a deep breath, recreating my training sessions with Neltharion, I started building up as much fire as I could within myself, as I waited for the perfect moment, and it came. The Night King tried to attack me unaware of the plan. Dodging his attack, I nailed him to the ground with my blades, slamming my knees into his arms. I think I finally got it. I finally understand this game. None of us was truly meant to win this, I said as I kept the bastard under me. Are you crazy? The Night King roared, trying to escape my grasp. You have no idea if this is going to work. Stop this madness. I told you, hate the gods for this game, not me, I said with a pained laugh. If I am to die, my only regret is not seeing my children grow. A few sobs escaped my lips as I saw my body glowing. But I'd rather die, forging them a future, than to have them live in fear. No! The Night King trashed under me. Closing my eyes, I took a deep breath and focused what little energy I had into screaming out my last battle cry as I let all the fire I had within myself set the world on fire around me, including me. Chapter 153, The End of A Song of Ice and Fire Part 3. I slowly opened my eyes to see. I was alive, but what really mattered was the monster I had set to kill dead? With hesitation, I looked down to see the Night King slowly reforming. Grabbing both Dawn and Lightbringer, I tried to cut the reforming body of the beast. Unfortunately, I had no chance to do so. In the split second that took me to take the blades from the burned ground, the undead king reformed his right arm and caught me by the throat. You almost got me there, the Night King muttered as his head reformed. I had to kill thousands of my minions to avoid certain death. For 2 brief and agonizing seconds, I hung imprisoned by the powerful grip of the undead monster as he continued to reform before cutting the hand that had me, prisoner. I share a life with every single one of my soldiers. You can't kill me, not until they are all dead, though I am surprised. That attack you just pulled out cost me around 200,000 minions in exchange for my life. The Night King stated, fully reformed by this point, so in a way, you even out the playing field for your people, I suppose. Well, now I'm glad I didn't die with my self-destruction fire. Otherwise, he would have won the war already. The monstrosity in front of me yelled, raising his fists above his head, mutating more and more. I don't like having to sacrifice my peons for power. But you prove to be a nuisance. Not only can he exchange them to avoid certain death, but he can also sacrifice them to get more power. I hate my life. Well, let's keep dancing, shall we? I tried to sound cool and collected, but that last suicidal attack had taken a toll on me. I was tired, really tired, but all of a sudden, I wasn't. What the hell? Melisandre. I could feel her with me right now. I could also feel my blood boil. She had probably used blood magic. I felt better. My wounds and burned skin was slowly getting better. That which sure is a nuisance, well, it matters not. Oak will kill her sooner or later, the abomination stated, noticing how I looked more energetic and how my wounds were slowly starting to disappear, faster than my body could heal them. I merely smiled at him. I was now glad I had given her my blood to do magic. It had come quite a hand. Now, let's dance once again. Very well, the Night King smiled, and immediately after, thousands of ice spears like icebergs started to protrude around him in every direction. I melted all of them with my fire, but for some reason, I noticed. The attacks seemed completely random, with the majority of them going towards other directions, instead of me. The undead king rushed towards me like a behemoth trying to strike with all his strength using his spear. While he was faster and considerably stronger, I easily dodged by jumping over the giant who shattered the ground like glass. And I couldn't help but notice, he was lacking something, but what? The Night King turned as quickly as he could to give a violent backtrack elbow attack followed by a spear swing, but once again, I had been able to see through his attack, and since I was faster, I slipped under his arm and cut his leg, making him drop to a knee. The Night King had somehow forsaken technique for power. There was no other explanation. With the raw force and speed he currently had, he should be more than able to push me, or kill me. But his attacks were now, like those of an almost mindless animal. With a violent roar, the already enraged undead reformed his leg and stood up, trying to attack me once again with his massive spear. This time I ducked under the attack and cut his head in a singular motion, followed by a quick cut to his arms. However, before his limbs and head fell to the ground, he reformed once again, attaching what I had just cut. Unfortunately for him, he did this just to receive a storm of cuts that stopped him before he could even attack. There was no doubt now. The Night King basically traded intellectual prowess for physical prowess, giving him more power and me the lead on the battle. This was unfortunate for him, but I wasn't going to let this opportunity go to waste. I would keep on my assault until he stopped reforming. If you can't solve a problem with violence, it means you ain't using enough violence to begin with. For today, that was my motto. I need more power. The Night King shouted, dropping his weapon to the ground, as he punched the ground with both arms like a gorilla, mutating once again, showing that even his cognitive abilities were starting to disappear. Suddenly, with a roar and blinding speed, the undead colossus managed to grab me by the wrists and delivered a terrible blow with his watermelon-sized knee to my guts, sending me a few hundred meters away, with a trail of blood on my blood. I had been thrown so hard that most of my army stopped for a second to give me a look, to see if I was still alive. Nothing like a concussion to get the blood flowing. I chuckled as I stood up, giving my men the thumbs up while I puked some blood. I will kill you. The colossus rushed at me like a football player, this time a little bit more accustomed to his speed. I dodged the brute by jumping to the side, cutting the giant with Dawn and Lightbringer. The undead roared, throwing a deadly punch that promised me a painful death. Once again, I dodged, taking a step to the side, grabbing his arm and with all my strength using it as a lever to nail the giant to the ground. More, the giant shouted, struggling to even speak the most simplistic words, and once again he mutated, taking the form of a werewolf-like creature, though I had no hair, just rotting flesh and ice around his body, around 12 foot tall. He is losing thousands every time he does that. If he keeps doing that, we will outnumber him. Nick Fury cawed, flying above me. Do you think you can keep him mutating? Could I? While it was easier to read him, it was also becoming more and more troublesome. A single punch from before broke bones and damaged some organs. I will try, I sighed. It's not like I had another choice. I think he can't die while he has lived to exchange for his, so this way, we will lower the number to 1. Nick offered. I kill you. The undead colossus shouted as he rushed at me on a straight line. Blinking in realization, I kicked a spear I found on the ground, piercing his skull and stopping his once again. More. I need more. He roared once again, mutating once again, his body now sporting tendrils, and more than 1 month. I'm not gonna. I am scared. I muttered, talking to myself. This shit had gone from 1 to a million really quick. The undead monster lunged forward, quickly sprinting towards me, jumping midway in an attempt to smash me like a bug. But reflex kicked in. I moved the heck away from the impact before dashing forward, piercing his chest. Instinctively I jumped backwards, waiting for the bastard to mutate once again, and like a clock. Me, need, more. With a somehow even more animalistic form, the undead sprinted at me again. This I jumped out of the way at the last second, using the momentum to cut him head off. He was stronger, faster and scarier than me, that much was true. But now it was a battle of mights, or strategies. It was a battle of timing. One mistake on my part, 1 second of hesitation would end me. I knew that, so I had to time all my movements perfectly. Once again, I jumped backwards, waiting for the beast to mutate. And he did, but instead of asking for more power, he just roared, showing he didn't have any brains anymore, mutating his body once again with a simplistic yet terrifying roar. The undead king was now on all fours, looking at me, once again resembling a wolf, like the one I had seen in my visions a long time ago. Holy sure. I was cut short for the moment I blinked. The monster had blasted towards me, trying to attack me, barely dodging. I couldn't help but feel the cold embrace of fear as I saw the damage a single attack did. The monster didn't let me recover and attacked once again, this time biting my arm off like it was fucking cheese. Not resistance, nothing. He just ripped my left arm that was holding Dawn, like nothing, from the elbow down. He just bit my arm like a cake. Shit. I snarled, jumping back to recover. The undead spit my arm to the side and roared in victory. Well, fuck you, buddy, I am right-handed anyway. I was not going to lose like this. Taking a deep breath, I burned the wound sealing it, and grabbing Lightbringer, I smiled, taunting the beast as I dashed forward, dodging his maw and razor-sharp teeth as I thrusted my sword with just enough power to go through his head. Do you need any help? I heard Fury inquired. I lost an arm, Sherlock, what do you think? I rolled my eyes as I took my distance, waiting for the fucking Pokemon to evolve once again. Our forces are now outnumbering the undead, 1 or 2 more mutations, and we will win, Fury stated. Hooray, I chuckled. Once again, the wolf-looking monster mutated, from a normal wolf to a monstrously with 6 mouths, 2 heads, and 3 legs. God, that is disgusting. I muttered. With a powerful roar, the Lovecraftian abomination darted at me, faster than before because why not? With the utmost care, I proceeded to methodically dodge all the attacks he was throwing at me, not because I was able to see them. Ha! Not at all. His attacks were a blurry of motion now, almost impossible to see them for me, but, thanks to his animalistic minds, his attacks were so one-directional that it was as easy to predict them, though unfortunately for me, not all of my predictions were accurate, for I failed to dodge newly acquired tail, which resulted on me being smacked with it, followed by me flying across the battlefield like a rag doll, landing close to Oberyn and Ned. Protect the king! Ned shouted, running towards me. Don't be an idiot, I stopped him, struggling to stand up. You lot won't buy me even a second. With a loud crash, the beast landed a few dozen meters away from me, growling like a feral beast. Holy shit, Oberyn muttered, taking a few steps back as the beast stared to walk towards us. However, a sword stopped the monster from moving, piercing his head. The sword was no other than Longclaw, meaning John had thrown the blade at it. We have to buy Melisandre time to heal him. John shouted, with Dawn on his hands. Now where the heck he got that? You know what, it doesn't matter, maybe the monster pooped the blade somewhere, and he go it. I need a few minutes to do so, Melisandre confirmed. Well, fuck it, this is a good way to die, Oberyn smirked. Ned smirked back. For the king! My army shouted as Melisandre dragged me out of the danger zone. Heh, fucking lunatics. I stared at Melisandre with a questioning look. How many undead remain? I asked, struggling to speak. God, that tail really messed me up. Only him. Melisandre answered, as she covered my body in the blood I gave her. Your sons managed to defeat the giant dragon, with the help of the krakens, which means he couldn't exchange the dragon for power. When? I asked, feeling proud they managed to do so. At the same moment, you landed close to me. Melisandre replied, they are probably fighting the beast right now. How long before I can go back? I asked. I don't know, we'll see, Melisandre answered, clearly unsure about if she could heal me. I already heal you, this time the damage is worse. Taking a deep breath, Melisandre started to chant in a foreign language. A little by little, I started to feel better, my wounds healing, my energy recovering. I'm feeling bet. I stopped midway, seeing how while I was getting better, Melisandre was slowly getting worse, aging, by the second. I waited hundreds of years to serve you, and that I will. Melisandre said, giving me a kiss, as her once beautiful crimson-red hair went white. Blood magic takes a lot, from the user and from the receiver, but unlike you, I don't have much to give, not anymore. I stood up, blinking in shock as Melisandre smiled with a sad overtone. She was now an old woman, a very old woman. Win this war, end this cycle once and for all, and like a pile of dust that the wind blows, Melisandre was dead, and there was nothing to say she even existed. To begin with, she aged to the point of turning to dust. She gave all her life in magic, to heal me once again, and I was going to use this newfound energy, to end this. I rushed back to the battlefield, seeing the beast laying waste to my army, with my sons struggling to keep the losses at a minimum. Regal was badly hurt, with one of his wings sporting a gaping hole. Neltharion was missing his front right leg and eye, and Crow had lost the tip of his tail, being the least damaged of the bunch. I'm back. I shouted at them. You were fighting this thing? Neltharion hissed in disbelief. Yes. I shuddered as I remembered my fight. We can barely contain him. Crow added. How do you guys feel? I asked as I focused on the monster, standing up. I don't know, it feels like there is a hole in me. Regal chuckled, showing his injured wing. Even now? Crow hissed. Don't worry, brother, now that we have father here, this will be a hole in one. Regal laughed. I will kill you if that unholy abomination doesn't. Crow muttered. Do you mean, the unholy abomination? Regal offered with a slight grin. Funny, but let's focus on the monster, okay? I chuckled. He also took a bite out of you, huh? Neltharion sighed, showing his left front paw. Hate the motherfucker. Yeah, I said, running towards the beats with my sons behind me. We have to burn him to nothing, so be ready to breathe the biggest fire in history. Got it. They replied in one voice at the same time. Taking a deep breath, I did what I had instructed my sons, and once again I focused on gathering all the fire I could. As the beast ran towards us, killing my men like they were flies on his way. Go to hell! Me and my sons shouted at the same time as a hellish blast of massive proportions set the demon in flames, burning him and everyone around him. I was promised. I was promised this world. The Night King said within, regaining some of his cognitive skills. Well, me too, fucker, I replied, as I lighted Lightbringer before throwing it at him like a makeshift lance, shattering his undead body once and for all. Chapter 154 Epilogue. I woke up feeling like crap, my body aching in parts they shouldn't be any aching, worn out, tired. Besides me, my wife laid sleeping, the dark circles in her eyes showed she had been worrying sick about me. I slowly stood up from stretching the one arm I had left, as I inwardly chuckled, this was going to make some stuff a living hell. As I stretched up, I noticed I felt different. For a moment I could really understand exactly what was different, but then I realized my fire was gone. The blessing the god of fire had given me was no longer with me, meaning everything was already over. Well, it was a bumpy ride. It has its ups and downs, and now, well, here I am. Alive but crippled in a way. But in reality I would have given my entire body if it meant saving my children. So losing an arm was a pretty good deal if you ask me. Black Friday shit. Ronard, Daenerys muttered as she woke up, hugging me immediately after. There were no words between us, just a comfortable moment of silence, one that helped us more than any words could right now. With a smile, and my wife on my side, I dozed off back to the world of dreams, holding my little piece of sunshine right. Today I was no king, just a man, wanting some peace. 6 months later. And so time passed. The first few months after the war were hard, especially since some important lords had died. The Tullys among them were wiped out. From father to son, none remained, except for Caitlin, who was now considerably more friendly. In the end, everyone had lost something. Some lost minor things like me, and others lost irreplaceable things like Oberyn, who lost 2 of his daughters. Obara and Tyene, who by what my ravens and Oberyn told me, fought to the very end like true warriors. Needless to say, Oberyn was destroyed with this. I couldn't even imagine my children dying. The idea was beyond anything I had experienced so far. Ned lost more than 80% of his army, and the battle had left his heir Robb with a bad leg, nothing that would threaten his life or impede him from having heirs of his own, but he would never fight again. Limping on the battlefield would be his end. Jon was in perfect health, a few cuts here and there, but besides that, new like a Porsche the son of a, it seemed even here the plot armor protects him. The point was, everyone had lost a lot during this war, me included. My once almost unstoppable army was now nothing but the shadow of what it once was. With a few hundred unsullied alive, and the Dothraki mostly gone. 1 year later. It has been officially 1 year since the war ended, and I have yet to fully recover, but every day I feel better with my strength slowly coming back. As for news, the Tyrells tried to rebel as soon as the matriarch of the family died, aka the only smart person in there. So yeah. I wiped them off. I gave them many chances, fuck them. But this made the 7 kingdoms feel more like the 5 kingdoms, or 4. I need to do my math. As for the kingdom, it was a work in progress. It was in need of fixing. With so many things to fix after the war, my bills were high. Good thing I owned the bank, otherwise, well, I'd rather not think about it. But things were looking well. For one, I had trustworthy people in my council, Oberyn as the master of laws, Ned Stark as the hand of the king, Tyrion, who I had personally hunted down, as the master of coin, Daisy Mormont as the master of ships. Some tried to complain because she was a woman and such. Well, fuck them. Lancelot as the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and secretly but officially Nick Fury as my Master of Whispers. I had my reasons why I had chosen every single one of them to those positions. Not only I trusted them, but they were good in the areas I had given them. I can wait to see how things turn out. 10 years later. Everything was perfect. The life I never knew as a young impulsive brat that I wanted was on my present. My son, training with me. And my daughter obliterating my royal ass in chess, every time. Though that last part is not new. She has been doing that since she was 9. And while Geralt shows more prowess in battle, she wasn't so far behind. Her style was more fluid, and with lethal intentions. How is the training going? Daenerys inquired, coming into the training yard. Dad keeps being the one-armed menace he is, Geralt pouted. Stop crying, and get better, my sarcastic, sour, and adorable teenage daughter commented with a slight smirk. Oh, shut it, Geralt rolled his eyes at her, it's not like you can beat him. In combat? Not yet, but in chess and other games. I do, unlike you. I have wins against father. Sibling rivalry, it's so beautiful to see it as a father, and fun, I love seeing them argue, it's sometimes relaxing. Especially because my little princess outwits my poor son, he was by no means stupid. But she is by no means normal, a genius, among genius. They each excelled in something. My son was a social butterfly, while my little princess hated social interactions, saying it was a waste of time, that the only people she cared about were us, and that others only wanted something from us. A very harsh truth she learned by herself, making her own conclusions when she was 7. My son, on the other hand, wanted to see the good in others, though not in a blind and moronic way. He knew some people were bad and wanted to use us, but he believed everyone deserves a chance. But even with his carefree, friendly demeanor, he was no fool, seeing through plots better than most adults. Needless to say, I was proud of them beyond words. As for my other sons, Well, after I gave Highgarden to Jon because, well, those lands were highly profitable and Jon was trustworthy, my sons claimed the Targaryen homeland for them. As a place to have eggs if they ever found mates. This in turn made all of my animals migrate there, turning the place into an animal kingdom, House Wildfire, or House Chimera as some call it. A good use for that place. What are you smiling about? Daenerys asked, kissing my hand. I feel like a lady being courted, I chuckled. A muscular and hairy one. Gerald added with a smirk. It would be educational to see father with a dress, my little princess added with a mischievous smile. Well, I'm happy just because, I chuckled, ignoring my children like a good father, just because, I finished hugging them. 10 years later. I had finally discovered what I had lost during my resurrection. I had lost a massive part of my lifespan. Instead of aging slowly like I would have done, I was aging faster than a normal person. What happened, Dad? Having troubles keeping up? My son smirked, as we continued to spar. Kiddo, you are still too green to best me, I chuckled, as I disarmed him with a single move all while putting the training sword on his throat. I will eventually best you, Pops, my son smiled. I have doubts about that, my daughter said, rolling her eyes, as while grabbing a training sword, let's have a one-on-one, brother. I assure you, this time I will win. As if, my son snorted, getting into position. In the meantime, I Saturday. Watching them fight with a smile on my face. Here I was, a man in his middle age, with his 2 loving kids, and loving wife living the day by day with no problems. Who would have thought I would be here 30 years ago, who would have thought? We will take care of them, once you are gone, Neltharion, who had come to visit today, hissed. We will protect them. Thanks, I smiled, as I watched them fight, feeling somewhat tired. Ronard, Daenerys greeted, giving me a kiss while sitting down beside me. You know I love you, right? I asked with a faint smile. I do, Daenerys nodded. Good, I yawned, putting my head in her lap, as I slowly drifted into sleep, feeling my body getting heavier and heavier, all while thinking. I had very eventful life, but I had no regrets. I would have done the same thing all over again just to get this result. I used at one point think my existence here was a curse. What a stupid boy I used to be. This marks the end of the story Game of Thrones, the Prideful One. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.